Bitcoins to take to get some goddamn respect in this town.
What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. It is a very boring day in the markets, not too much movement. You can see most of the markets are slightly down. Bitcoin down 0.5%, Ethereum down 0.5%. Really very boring day in the markets. However, be careful what you wish for. You do know that there is always the calm before the storm. Sometimes when it gets a little too boring, that's when we have those massively crazy wild price swings. Now, in yesterday's video, we were talking about bullish Bitcoin fundamentals. However, today I do need to go over a few things on the chart that are a little bit concerning. I'm just being realistic. Listen, guys, I'm not saying we couldn't still go to the moon, but short term, there are some things that are sort of bothering me right now that I do want to go over. Could be nothing. Could be something to keep your eyes on. You can see over here, we did have our infamous BART pattern, okay? But Bitcoin has not been able to break above since then. You can see we got up to about $9,780, and really it's just been sort of a slump. So today, I do want to talk about that short term. I do have actually one little bit of good news for Bitcoin, and also I want to talk about specifically Ethereum and the fact that we're hearing about all this excitement with decentralized finance, DeFi, right? And the fact that Ethereum could possibly hit a $1 trillion market cap. Yes, you heard that right. That would actually put Ethereum, given its current circulating supply, over $9,000. Now, keep in mind, we've only seen Ethereum ever hit about 1,400. So that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to keep it super short and sweet. And if you are interested in these concerns, you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. Also, thank you for stopping by. You guys rock. If you're not subscribed, well, we do this every single day. Bear, bull, neutral, you know we're here. And if you want to enter to win a Ledger Nano S, we do a giveaway every single Monday. Drop a comment below and I'm going to pick a random winner come Monday. Now, really quick, let's see if there is anything going on in the altcoins. Litecoin's up a little bit. We have DX, Terra, Aeon, Bytecoin, Kyber Network, Mona. So there's a few coins, very mild gains today, really like 1%, 2%, right? Now, having a look at Bitcoin, this is the issue. This is the main, there's a few issues actually. Number one is you could see that we actually were in an ascending wedge pattern. Now, textbook ascending wedges are generally bearish. They usually end with a massive drop, right? Now, we did break out of it, forming this sort of linear channel. You could see with this purple line right here, we got up to around $10,500, had two peaks, and then we started to pull back. But the problem is right now is we are currently sitting below this trend. So either way, if it's an ascending wedge or if you're drawing it as a channel, doesn't matter. We're currently sitting below it. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that the 200 daily moving average, which in traditional markets is considered to be the indicator of whether or not an asset is either bullish or bearish, we are currently sloping downwards. We're having a downward sloping 200 moving average. So even though we are above it on the daily, the problem is, as you can see, if we go back here, when we really started to get bullish, it started to slope up. Now, keep in mind that it is a lagging indicator, right? So it could potentially just be having this downward slope, you know, because it's basically representing this slope that we had after the China pump. But these are all things that you still have to consider, okay? The other thing to note is that we are sitting below the 21 exponential on the daily. You can see we had a beautiful bounce right here, right around January 25th. We came down to it. We almost tried to touch it around the dip on February 4th, but currently we are sitting below it. Now, if we go back to the major bull run that we had essentially right here, you could see that it is possible to dip below it, okay? For example, back here in 2019, we fell below it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost like 6 days out of 10 days, and we did bounce back above it, right? So it's not necessarily doom or gloom, but it is something to keep your eyes on. If we do fall below it, then we might look to get supported by the legacy trend around 9,321. Now, if that was to breach, we have to zoom out. Always zoom out, look at the macro, having a look at the weekly 21 exponentials sitting right here around the $8,700 level. Now, there are two reasons why that level is of interest potentially for buyers. Number one being that is a major support right here on the VPVR after the bounce that we had on the $9,300 level. So if we were to fall below that, that is really the next level of interest. Also, on top of that, we have the CME futures gap. Yes, I know I haven't spoken about it in a while, but it's still there, guys. It hasn't magically gone away. And we do know that these gaps have an amazing history of getting filled. They actually pretty much all get filled. You know, there's like one really low gap that hasn't got filled that had like a $3 difference, but for the most part, they do get filled sooner rather than later, and we do have one sitting at around $8,540. Now, keep in mind, if Bitcoin was to fall from the price that we have over on CME, keep in mind it is closed on the weekends, you know, to close that gap, that would be almost a 12% drop for Bitcoin, which wouldn't really be uncommon for Bitcoin. You know, we have seen 20%, 30%, 40% drops, but it's just something that you have to be prepared for. Now, listen, we could wake up tomorrow and blast right through the 21 exponential, and then we could completely invalidate this video. However, I just want to be realistic, especially if you're looking to trade short term. It could get a little bit crazy, but there is good news. There is good news. We did have one bit of fundamental news come out. We had New York regulated crypto startup Paxos in conjunction with Credit Suisse and Nomura-owned broker-dealer Instinet has claimed bragging rights for the first live-based settlement of U.S. equities. But the question is, will this fundamental news be able to actually persuade the charts? That is something we have to talk about moving forward. Now, having a look at Ethereum's chart actually is looking slightly more bullish than Bitcoin's chart. However, we do know that when Bitcoin, if it does take a hit, usually kind of drags down the markets with it, right? Now, we have been supported right here by this, support that we got back here because we had that original resistance. So we haven't fallen below the sort of $240 level. Recently, we have had the golden cross on Ethereum with the 50 over the 2, and it actually looks like the 100 may potentially cross over the 200, which is what I was expecting for Bitcoin to really give me that bullish sentiment where I'd be like, okay, send it to the moon, right? But currently, yeah, Ethereum does look a little bit better, but like I said, if Bitcoin falls, then Ethereum will probably take a hit as well. I mean, even Ethereum was not able to get away from the infamous bar pattern right here, right? But that being said, I do want to talk about Ethereum specifically. I want to discuss the whole DeFi movement and whether or not this could actually push Ethereum to a $1 trillion market cap. I know that sounds crazy, but you've heard some people talk about it. So that's essentially what we're going to go in today. We're going to talk about all the hard questions about Ethereum. Should you invest? If Ethereum does eventually become what they say it wants to be, is that a threat to Bitcoin? We're going to go into all that today, and I do have a special guest, my buddy Crypto Lark. It's been a very long time on the channel. He's very knowledgeable in the DeFi and Ethereum space. Not only are we going to talk about DeFi and its implications, whether or not it's actually accessible or if the average person would even want to use a decentralized finance platform, we also are going to talk about the fact that we did have BZX having its exploit. I want to discuss, is Tezos actually a competitor to Ethereum, and should we be worried? And finally, one Ethereum proposal that could be an absolute game changer to Ethereum's monetary policy. And if that sounds good to you, definitely stick around. You're going to get a lot of value out of this. And without further ado, let's dive into it. Crypto Lark, welcome back to the channel. By the way, guys, we literally just had a crazy mix-up, almost didn't record the interview. We're officially recording. Lark, welcome back to the channel, man. It has been long overdue.
Thank you, Kate. I'm super excited to be back on the channel, man. It's just, wow, crypto, holy cow, so much happens all the time. It's absolutely wild. We haven't talked for a few months, but it's just feels like years in crypto land.
Oh, absolutely. 1 week is like 1 year in crypto, so we probably haven't spoken in several months, so it definitely feels like a long overdue conversation. Today, though, specifically, I thought we should focus on Ethereum because you were kind of like one of the first people recently to really start honing in on the DeFi aspect of Ethereum and all the different proposals that are coming. And I really want to focus on that because, there is some criticism about it recently, but there's also some really exciting things as well. And I was hoping that you could sort of break that down for us, both good, bad, ugly. That sounds good to you?
Sounds like a great time. Sounds like a great time. Now, the one thing I want to say before we dive into some more questions is it's such an exciting time for Ethereum in 2019 and in 2020. Because in 2017, 2018, we had a lot of promise, right? We had a lot of projects that wanted to build on Ethereum, a lot of people who wanted to deploy things on Ethereum, but we didn't actually have a lot of working products yet. Now, in late 2019, start of 2020, wow, we have so many amazing working products, great decentralized exchanges and, makers gotten bigger than ever and a lot of different things that are really providing value. And we're seeing new use cases coming through like insurance, for example, with like Nexus Mutual for smart contract insurance and stuff like that. So I think the promise of Ethereum is finally starting to be delivered, which is why I think there's so much excitement around Ethereum again, because it's gone beyond just, oh, we're going to launch ICOs with white papers and dreams and push the price up with a lot of demand for, insatiable greed to get big returns on the ICOs. That was, of course, unsustainable. But now what we have building is an actual sustainable ecosystem that can, in the future, provide incredible value.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a huge difference I've noticed. I mean, it was just people throwing money at ICOs and white papers. And now it's like, even with the recent alt season, you're not really, I've seen altcoins actually dumping during this alt season, like the page 4 or 5, like the ones that forgotten about. You know what I'm saying? Now, I wanted to talk, one thing I want to kind of talk about that, about what makes it so appealing to you specifically, because I hear some criticism about the DeFi. Number one, I hear that, it's not really decentralized. They're saying most of these guys, it is essentially centralized. But then you're also hearing that criticism about, how are you going to get the average person to get into this, to actually convince them to use something like this? What is the mass appeal for somebody to, stop using a bank, let's say, for a loan and get into crypto? What are the advantages for them?
Well, there's a few things to unpack there, but let's start off with the incentives for people to come in, because they're there and they're very, very real. What's the average percentage that you're going to get in a bank savings account these days? Right?
Maybe 2% if you're like lucky. CD is 5%, but by the time inflation, you're actually negative. So
if you're lucky, this is the thing, like a Chase account has like 0.01%. Like it's like unbelievably low rates for most bank accounts. Whereas the decentralized finance markets, they've got very, very interesting rates. You can get 7, 8, 10, 12, 15% sometimes on your dollars. Just talk about your dollar coins, right? So that's a great annual return for that. So there's a lot of incentives there for getting returns for people, but there's also I think a really big growing area of use case that's actually coming through, and that's what's super interesting. Because imagine, I know like makers a very simplistic version of decentralized loans, but even then it's super effective, because if you're sitting on, let's say, 100 Ethereum and you don't want to sell your Ethereum but you need cash, you can go take out a loan with Maker, get a bunch of cash, and you keep your Ethereum. You can pay the loan back to the decentralized smart contract later on. That's some powerful stuff. And as we see use cases being built out, for example, for under-collateralized loans, we're seeing the first experimentations of those happening right now. That's going to be really big moving forward when we can actually have under instead of over-collateralized loans like we have right now.
What do you think about some of that like recent scare? Like for example, what happened with BZX? Now I know technically that was an exploit, right? But that's the thing. Just to bring up in case people don't know, if anybody remembers the Bancor incident, right? There was sort of a back door where they were actually able to retrieve the funds. You had half the community saying, well, that's not decentralized. They have a key to get back in. But then you have the other half like, well, I just got my money saved from being hacked. So I actually kind of appreciate that. Now in the BZX situation, that was a exploit in the code, right? There was nothing that they could do about that. So what do you think about, one, the argument of some of them being too centralized, but then on the flip side, if we do go full decentralization and something does happen to your money, it's kind of like, well, oops. Isn't that a little bit scary for the average person?
It is a little bit scary for the average person. And I think that we really have to unpack what decentralization means, because this is a massive misconception that I see all the time in crypto, that decentralization is a black or white issue. And it's just simply not. When we talk about decentralized finance, some of the protocols are more decentralized at a code layer than others. But what we're really talking about is removing the middleman. So the ability to take a loan with no KYC, totally permissionless, accessible to anyone in the world, regardless of your credit score, your nationality, any of that stuff, that's freaking revolutionary technology. Now, on the back end, do the developers still have access to be able to, shut the decentralized exchange down or whatever it might be? In a lot of cases, yes. And so that's something you have to realize, is that these decentralized protocols, they're decentralized in access, they're decentralized in custody, they're not necessarily decentralized completely in code. And the BZX exploit reminded me of something with Bitcoin, which I think didn't get enough press in this thing. Is that so? Basically, what happened? This guy comes in, they exploit it, they pump the price over here to crash the price over here. The exact same thing happened with Bitcoin twice in 2019, where it just required way more money. Right? It required a whale that had tens of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. They went over to Bitstamp, which is a relatively illiquid exchange compared to some of the bigger boys. Now, Bitstamp's very important in this equation because BitMEX uses Bitstamp as part of their price index. So they were able to crash the price of Bitcoin on Bitstamp, have a very successful short over on BitMEX, make a frick load of money, and they did it twice. And so that kind of exploit, it happens in the industry. I think the realization we need to come to as a crypto community is that exploitations, manipulations, they're going to happen. And we are incredibly early right now in the entire scene for decentralized finance. Bad things are going to happen. 100% bad things are going to happen. That exploit at BZX, that's child's play, man. Wait until something major happens and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars getting lost, the whole platform crashing down. This stuff is going to happen. And that's part of the growing pains of building all of these new projects.
I remember that dump, by the way, on Bitstamp, that 20% wick. It's still on the charts. Like, you can go back and still see it there, man. That was absolutely crazy. I do agree with you. There are going to be some growing pains and stuff like that. And, like, if people watching my channel right now, you guys know, like, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I hold a massive amount of Bitcoin in my portfolio compared to my very small speculative altcoin portfolio. I do hold Ethereum, but I do have a question for you. Now, like, for example, if Ethereum, just hypothetically, was to actually take off, in your opinion, really become everything that they say they're going to be, and what do you think that poses, in your opinion, a threat to Bitcoin, or do you think that because then would ETH just become the money, or do you still think Bitcoin will always have its sort of place, in the market as that store of value, digital gold 2.0? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think this is what maximalists tend to get wrong. And I think maximalists, in a lot of cases, are so anti-Ethereum because they see Ethereum as a threat, whereas actually they're incredibly complementary, right? Bitcoin, digital store of value, right? Incredibly secure money, the biggest computing network in the world. It's incredibly impressive what Bitcoin is. Ethereum is not a threat to that. Ethereum is one of the most perfect complements that you could imagine, because we can now tokenize Bitcoin on Ethereum and give it access to decentralized exchanges. I mean, Rootstock, one of the key Bitcoin side chains, they built a bridge to Ethereum, right? So there's interoperability between the chains, right? We've had an atomic swap between Bitcoin and Ethereum happen before. And so they work together and they're better together. And I think there's space for both of Bitcoin and Ethereum to have massive use case. And the thing I think that a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists, where they get sidetracked and take it in the wrong direction, is you don't need Bitcoin to do what Ethereum does, right? You don't need to have a big token ecosystem on top of Bitcoin and all this stuff. Let Bitcoin be Bitcoin, let Ethereum be Ethereum, right? Lightning Network's going to bring in some kind of functionalities in terms of doing some different tokenization and decentralized exchanging and stuff like this, but the security model is not as robust as the security model for Ethereum. I don't think anyone's going to put up $100 million on the Bitcoin Lightning Network for a decentralized loan, whereas you would feel a lot more secure doing that on Ethereum.
But the thing is do you even really want that? You know what I mean? No. Like, in my opinion, I think, like, it does what it does very well. Exactly. Why try to change it? Why try to reinvent the wheel? Ethereum clearly is setting out to do its own thing. It has its own objectives. And I think that what it is striving for, because here's the thing, I don't want to name any guys out there. There's lots of Bitcoin maximalists. I don't need to name them, but just to call all smart contract platform shitcoins, you're denying an entire potential for blockchain, an entire, not even multiple use cases. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we have money. That's a killer app. Great. I love that. I love that Bitcoin does that. I really don't want them to mess with Bitcoin. I actually like Bitcoin as it is. I don't mind a few second layers on top of it. My channel, we've talked about that many times, Same way with the banking. If you had gold, you had the paper representing the gold, then you had the money in the bank, then you could use your credit cards to represent the digits in the bank, then you can use the credit card, link it up with PayPal, Venmo. That's layer 4, 5, 6, 7. But at the bottom, you still have the hard asset, right? Which is Bitcoin, which is fine what it does. Ethereum is looking to do other things like decentralized finance. Look what they're doing with NFTs, tokenizations of real world assets. That's something that I love about Ethereum, and I love that they're doing that. And that's coming whether or not people like someone's going to do it. Whether it's Ethereum or it's whoever Quorum, whoever these guys are. Who's the one that JP Morgan is?
It's Quorum, yeah.
Yeah, it is, right? Someone's going to do it either way. Whether it's a Hashgraph, Tezos, I don't know. It's going to happen either way. So, and that's actually, I want to ask you about that. Now, you just did it. Yeah, I saw you did a video on Tezos. You've done much more of a deep dive into that than I did. What is your opinion on Tezos versus ETH? Because Tezos been on a roll lately. It's been absolutely massive. What do you think about that? Is it really Ethereum like real competitor or just a lot of hype? What do you think?
I think Tezos has some very interesting characteristics that make it a compelling case for people to want to see that as being maybe the next Ethereum or something like this.
Well, they have proof of stake right now, so that's pretty appealing, I'd say. That's what
right.
They
have an operational proof of stake right now, and they've got a flexible governance model that'll allow them to, implement the latest updates that are coming technologically, right? So we've obviously seen a lot of interest from them because they've got great formal verifications that allow for institutions to be able to build their STOs on top of Tezos and feel secure in the knowledge that they're able to do that. Now, that being said, right now, and this could change in the coming years very quickly, this is an industry that's ready for lots of change, but the advantage that Ethereum has, it's like, I don't know, it's like Ethereum's on the 90-yard line and Tezos is on like the 2-yard line or something like that. It's just like they've got such a head start. Every wallet has Ethereum, right?
Plus they have the developers, they have the community.
The developers, that's right. It's absolutely insane. And with the upgrade to 2.0, Ethereum is going to get even better and even harder to catch up to because something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but this is the Ethereum WebAssembly. Everyone talks about staking in 2.0 for Ethereum and all this stuff and sharding for extra scalability. But actually the Ethereum WebAssembly is basically going to make Ethereum more sort of web friendly, if you will. And it's actually going to bring in more coding languages as optional uses within Ethereum, which will expand it beyond the Solidity developer community and make it more easy for different institutions, developers to actually come and build on Ethereum. So that's a big thing that doesn't get talked a lot about in Ethereum 2.0, but will be massive, I think, in its scope.
Well, they were talking about, I remember when they had introduced the Viper. I mean, I'm not a coder, so I don't really know much about that, but I heard that was a lot better. It had more functionality and stuff like that. And now, obviously, I don't want to have this conversation without talking about the elephant in the room being the fact that Ethereum has an unlimited supply, which right now is not that good of a monetary policy, really, when you compare it to Bitcoin. However, recently we have seen the EIP 1559, I think it is.
That's right. Yep.
And now basically what that does essentially is it's going to burn the majority of the ETH within the transactions, right? And this is supposed to actually help, I guess you could say, like, develop the market rate. And because a lot of people were concerned about proof of stake, right? Because basically you're just giving more power away to the whales, essentially, right? Now this is something that's going to benefit the entire community, right? That burn rate. So, I mean, what's your opinion on that? Do you think is that like the game changer? Like then, for ETH, like, because that is a big comparison between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And this is, I think, again, where a lot of people, who are really big Bitcoin fans get tripped up with Ethereum because they want Ethereum to be more Bitcoin-like, and Bitcoiners want Bitcoin to be more Ethereum-like. They can just do their own thing, right? Bitcoin's got a very fixed monetary policy, which is a big benefit for Bitcoin in terms of, people can easily understand, okay, every 4 years, we get a 50% cut in emissions. There's only 21 million. It's easy to understand, very simple. Whereas Ethereum's got this minimum issuance policy, right? Where when we say unlimited supply, oh my gosh, that sounds really scary. Unlimited supply, what the frick is going on here? Now, what does unlimited supply actually mean in practice? Well, it's very different from what a lot of people understand it to be, because right now we've already seen the block rewards for Ethereum go down from 5 to 3 to 2, where it currently is. With the ETH 2.0 phase 1.5 upgrade, there's going to be a massive reduction. So right now we've got about a 5% annual inflation for Ethereum. That upgrade will cut it down to about 0.5% annual inflation. Now that's going to be, by the way lower than Bitcoin's going to be until about 2032. So the EIP 1559, to get back to your original question, that's only going to add to the economic scarcity when we bring in DeFi, when we bring in Ethereum locked up for staking. Tezos has 80% of the Tezos locked up right now for staking. What's that going to be like?
Has a lot to do with why the price is pumping when you got so much of the supply locked up. You know what I mean? But real quick though, because I like I said, you've done way more research into this than me. So as far as that goes, but like, okay, so it's going to be less than Bitcoin, but is that because like, do they have to make a conscious decision every time? Because like Bitcoin, the halving is built into the protocol. It's built into the code. It's just going to happen. Yep. We don't need to vote on it. Is that something Ethereum's going to work? Like, is it like, are a bunch of guys going to get in a room and be like, okay, guys, time to lower the reward? Or is it eventually going to have a sort of built-in mechanism the same way?
Or more scarily for people, increase it. Well, that's the trick with Ethereum is that, again, it's a minimum necessary issuance. So if they get 10 years down the line and like, well, that minimum necessary issuance is not sufficient, right? Then they might upgrade it,
but is that a possibility? Because that
is a possibility. Right. Okay. And that's the side. And this is, again, you can disagree with that monetary policy all day. And I totally understand the disagreements with it.
I'm just looking at both sides.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I want to say, so that is a potential with Ethereum, is that the monetary policy is simply not set in stone like it is with Bitcoin. That's a totally understandable criticism. I see the direction that the monetary policy for Ethereum is going in, and I think that's going in a good direction. But again, it's not decided by the wider community, right? If you're an Ethereum holder, you don't actually get a say over that. Whereas, again, that's why people are excited about something like Tezos, because if you are a coin holder, you get a say in what's going on. Now, you might be in the minority of your say and get voted out. That's how, democratic institutions work, but at least you have a say, right? So if you want to change the monetary policy of Tezos, for example, that's something that could be proposed by token holders and agreed on or not agreed on. Whereas with Ethereum, you've got a group of developers who, are not economists necessarily, right, deciding these decisions. So that is a very understandable thing to be worried about.
Okay, just kind of, I wanted to ask you before you go, I don't want to keep people here for too long. Like specifically,
we love you guys, by the way. We love you guys.
No, we do love you, but I know you guys got places to be. We could literally talk about crypto all day. But I wanted to ask you, like, is there any specific like projects or not shilling, but is there anything? It doesn't even have to be an altcoin. It could be like just a project. It could be a service. Is there anything that you're really just bullish on, excited for within the Ethereum ecosystem right now?
Yeah, within the Ethereum ecosystem, absolutely. I'd say probably one of the ones that I'm most interested in at the moment is really a lot of the decentralized finance stuff, right? So I see a lot of great potentials in terms of things that could be short-term or long-term, short-term, medium-term, let's say, trading opportunities where you get in low and, try and get out later on. Synthetics is definitely one of those. They've got really great staking rewards and they've got great payments coming through from the exchange and stuff like that. So Synthetics, I think, has certainly got a lot of interest for me personally recently and, from the wider crypto community. I think that will continue to have a lot of strengths as a major decentralized finance player. Outside of Ethereum, there's one decentralized finance player that I think is really, really interesting, and that's Kava. So that is basically the maker DAO for everything that's not Ethereum, but also including Ethereum. So they're going to be working with Tezos and XRP and Bitcoin. So very interesting one, very under the radar at the moment. So that's one that's,
kind of like interoperability, mint and burn type thing going on.
Exactly. Well, it's built on Cosmos, and the Cosmos, the whole idea is interoperability, right? So that's kind of the connector of all chains, if it's kind of their idea. So that's something very interesting that people might want to take a look into as well. Something that's kind of, very interesting outside of the Ethereum DeFi space. Because I just want to say, I think Ethereum, obviously it's got almost everything built on it right now, but decentralized finance will not always be just Ethereum. The only thing is Ethereum's got this major head start. Other chains are starting to catch up. We'll see more decentralized finance going on Tezos. We'll see more decentralized finance going on other chains as well. We've already seen some very early iterations of different ideas of this on other blockchains, but Tron and EOS and Ontology and Zilliqa and all these guys are going to be doing decentralized finance in one degree or another. It's going to be multi-chain decentralized finance world. Ethereum is going to be the beating heart of all that. And you can see that now because people are building bridges to Ethereum. Ethereum is not building bridges elsewhere.
And the thing is too, is like for everybody watching and just my opinion, I'm open to whatever. I don't like, I love technology and I love options. And I feel like if you're going to stand for something, for like Bitcoin and like financial freedom, and then you should also be okay with the fact that there can be 5,000 altcoins and people can have their decision to use what they want. I think at the end, people will choose their victor. And I think that you'll find that maybe certain ones are better for certain use cases than others. I mean, there's not one company that makes TVs, one company that makes phones, one company that makes cars. They each have their own unique use cases. And yes, some are going to obviously have a higher market cap, more of a user base, but it's always nice to have those options. So, all right, Big, you don't have to, but what do you think, man? Okay, so we had a $1,400 Ethereum, right? That was the high. Do you have, what is your like ultimate goal, your potential price prediction for ETH, or at least minimally, like you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to like take some kind of a profit, or are you just like hold it till the end, man? What do you think for ETH?
Great question. I think long term we have the potential to see Ethereum well over the $1,400 mark again. You know, up into multi thousands of dollars. If we look at the value that's being locked up on Ethereum, we have real estate bonds and all that stuff, and we have rare art and all kinds of crazy things happening. The decentralized finance is coming in. Decentralized finance is eating Ethereum because right now we've got these are statistics for January. I haven't looked to see if they're true for February or not, but in January you had about 8,000 Ethereum a day being locked into decentralized finance, whereas there's only around 12 to 13,000 new Ethereum a day made. So like 60 to 70% of all Ethereum locked straight into DeFi. This is before staking even exists. Remember, Tezos is 80% staking, right? So I think the token economics of decentralized finance, of EIP 1559, of staking, all this stuff comes together with all the use cases, gaming and enterprise and all this stuff. I see definitely Ethereum potentially getting to a $1 trillion market cap as the markets mature over the next sort of 5 to 10 years.
That's crazy. That's high.
But that's, you know, that's very high. But at the same time, that might be the situation where Bitcoin is at a $10 trillion market cap, right? Or a $5 trillion market cap. And I see that happening as well, right? So this is the thing we're talking 5 to 10 years from now. We're not talking this is going to happen tomorrow. And I actually made a video talking about a $1 trillion market cap for Ethereum. People are like, you're crazy. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Like, well, no, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. We're talking about building, you know, these things over years. And if Ethereum is successful and remains the dominant market player, then I definitely can see that, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 Ethereum, as crazy as that sounds right now. But again, remember when Bitcoin is $3, nobody ever thought it would go to 1,000. When Bitcoin is $1,000, nobody ever thought it would go to 20,000, right? We're at the very early stages of a nascent industry that has barely caught mainstream attention yet. And when it does, and it is.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. People don't understand how small this is. They do not understand that Bitcoin is like Jeff Bezos could basically buy all the Bitcoin. He could just buy the whole market. If we wanted to sell it to him, he could just buy it OTC right now. And considering that Ethereum is only a fraction of that, and considering that it's less than, I think, 1% of people that are even really exposed to this, plus the fact that realistically, we're living in a digital environment. I mean, like now you go out, I go to restaurants, I go to the mall, little babies, it's all about iPad. They're on, little kids are like on YouTube, man. They're watching that kid Ryan or whatever it is. He playing with, I mean, it's just like, it's such a digital world with the V-Bucks. I mean, this is a crazy example before we go, but I was playing like Super Mario Odyssey. I don't know if you ever played that game. And each one of the kingdoms has their own little purple coins, their own little, you know, and kids they're just like being brought up in a situation where they're going to laugh at things like dirty, filthy cash and stuff like that. So when you hear Max Kaiser coming out and calling for a $400,000 Bitcoin, it's not that unrealistic considering you have a gold market cap of 7 whatever trillion it is now, and this is digital gold. It's just, I really see the shift moving towards this. In fact, I find that most people don't trust traditional institutions, even like younger kids right now. They may not understand it. They may not know why. Maybe it started in the 80s when, like, you know, the government was always coming after ET and stuff like that. But I just feel like we generally just don't trust these guys. We don't trust these fat cat, Wall Street, you know, smoking a cigar guys. And I don't know. I just feel like that is the direction we're going to go in. So maybe I'm a little bit too hopeful, but
I don't think so. I want to, before we finish up, I just want to bring on one thing you just mentioned there.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Everyone's got a phone, right? And what we know now, Samsung and HTC, Samsung particularly, HTC is also a very relevant player in the global phone market, but Samsung's got about a quarter of the phone market. They are the market leader. And as we know, they are including Bitcoin wallets and they are including Ethereum wallets natively into the phones. All those kids who are going to be playing video games on their phones, getting, you know, engine NFTs from playing the game. And then they say, oh, well, that's worth $20. I'm going to cash that out, get $20 worth of Ethereum, and go buy some, you know, whatever on Amazon. Like they're going to grow up with crypto in their hands, in their phones, and it's going to be like second nature to them in the same way that we grew up with the internet. They're going to grow up with the internet with crypto as a relevant, useful, and ubiquitous money.
100% agree. 100% agree. Actually, to just piggyback on that, even what they're doing with the backed consumer app, a lot of people don't realize, it's like, oh, well, it's got Bitcoin. They're actually revolutionizing loyalty points and stuff as well. Whereas, there's so many people now that have all these different cards for example, you said different games, right? Can you imagine all your game tokens in one spot instead of now I got to go to this game, I got to go to that? Imagine one wallet that has all your loyalty points, all your non-fungibles, everything in one place that normally would be scattered over 100 different apps. But now there's a little button at the bottom that says convert to ETH, convert to Bitcoin, right? You see what I'm saying? And now now you don't have to go through that barrier of signing up for a Coinbase account and sending your money and verifying, taking a picture. No, you already have the app. All you got to do is just convert. I mean, that is like the floodgates, because people are lazy, man. But if you put it right there in front of them, they're just curiosity. They're going to try it. And I think once they start using it, they're going to be hooked just the same way that we're all hooked. So
that's it. Especially once they start earning it. And that's going to be a big thing.
Especially if the price starts going up, forget about it. That's like, that's what got me involved. I mean, you know the truth. So, I first bought my Bitcoin and then it came back like 2 weeks later and it was up like, I don't know, like 30%. I was like, whoa. And then the rabbit hole. So
that's it.
Lark, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You actually made my day a lot easier. I have some content to put out. Hope everybody out there enjoyed it. Check out the Crypto Lark. If you guys are not subscribed, he's freaking amazing. I've been watching the Crypto Lark since before I had a channel. So this guy's been around. He's seen a lot, and you do a lot more interviews than me too. So if you guys are into that, like really, hearing from the sources, he's your guy to go to. So Lark, you are welcome anytime on the channel, my friend.
K-Dub, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
So if you stuck all the way around to the end, you are a trooper. Thank you so much once again. Let me know what you do think about Ethereum versus Bitcoin versus Tezos versus the future of DeFi, the $1 trillion market cap. Let me know what you guys think about all of that below. But I think that's enough for today. This was quite a lengthy video. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. That is it for me. My name's K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.